Welcome to the Brett Davis Podcast.
Well, looking at the beginning of that photo, and I'm wondering, do I need something that shows me as I am now, a little bit older, more wrinkles? I don't know. I'm not into the vanity thing, but we're not here to talk about that. I'm very honored to finally get a chance to talk to somebody that I've been corresponding through the internet for a while because I've been watching what she's been doing with the Latino conservative movement that's going on in the United States right now. It's very humbling, and I'm very honored to have Melinda Ann, who's the president of the Latinos United for Conservative Action, and she is the founder.
Thank you so much. Well, the founder is actually Tony Renteria. I'm the president. And it is such a pleasure. Thank you so much. I know we've been really trying to get a show put together and come and talk about some very important issues that we're facing today. So the honor is all mine. Thank you so much for having me on today.
So how long have you been involved with the conservative movement? Let's start with that.
Yeah, well, actually, I started in 2015. I never realized I would never look. I mean, thinking back, if I thought about where I was today, I would never think I'd be doing politics. Really, seriously. In 2015, I think like anybody else, many Americans out there, when Trump came down the escalator and said that he was running for president, that is when I got involved. They said, you know what, I'm going to vote for that guy.
I have a quick question.
Yeah.
Was that the Simpson version or the Fox version?
You know, I don't remember, to be honest with you, what I was watching. I just remember him coming down the escalator and saying that he was announcing his candidacy for president. And I know some people say you should never admit this, but I'll be honest with you. You know, growing up in southern New Mexico, we didn't really pay attention to politics. I can remember, though, my tias and my tios, anytime an election was coming around, they would say, oh, here comes another, person and just going to promise us everything in the world and then get rich and provide nothing. I vividly remember that growing up. So we didn't really know much or talk much about, politics. So I'll tell you what. When I started voting, I would go and vote. I voted for Ross Perot, and I'll tell you why. And a lot of people are like, you should never admit that because it resulted in getting Clinton. I understand.
I did too.
But I was just tired of even till today, tired of the everyday career politician. Again, for that reason, they didn't give us anything. They provided. You could see that the policies and the promises really got us nowhere, but yet they lived the luxurious lifestyle. So when Trump came down that escalator, once again, I was like, finally, here is a businessman, because the president is the CEO of the country. So who better than somebody like Trump, he's in New York and he's a boss man. He's a great businessman, not only in this country, but around the world. So in my thoughts, I was thinking, great, somebody that could probably get this country on a better financial path than what we are on now. So that's literally when it started for me. And wow, let me tell you about the pushback that I got.
Yeah, because I can, and that's another thing we were going to talk about. I mean, and I'll let you tell me really quick, but Trump came out very vocal when he was running against immigration and illegal immigration and things that were going on at the border. And do you think he came across a little crass? Do you think he came across misunderstood when he said the Mexican people that are coming across the border? Give me some feedback on that and how you felt as a Latina.
Absolutely. So this was asked the very next day I went into work. And mind you, I was living in the Northeast coast at this time. I was in Connecticut. And I remember, because, I was from New Mexico. Everybody knew I was from New Mexico. And I remember them saying, Melinda, did you hear what Trump said about Mexicans? And I was like, I heard him, but what? No, I didn't hear anything bad. They said, well, yeah, he called Mexicans rapists and murderers and drug dealers. I said, no, he didn't. I said, I want you to go back and listen to it, because what he said, and it's the truth. He said, Mexico allows the drug dealers. Mexico allows those murderers, right? That's what he said. He said, Mexico allows. He never said Mexicans are. And so when I tell people to go back and listen, they can't argue that fact with me, because he never said that Mexicans are. So I was not offended at all. And being raised from just a couple of hours from that border, everything he was saying is true. Along with our corrupt government themselves. We lived in an area where we knew illegals were there in and out. Meth, drugs, everything that comes through that border. He was absolutely true. And I would let a lot of people know I wanted a border wall longer than.
Why is that?
Well, because I felt like nothing else was going to work. And, when you come from that part of the country, for a fact that when the illegals come in, I mean, when you're in a rural town, we're all fighting for the same jobs. Okay. Mm-hmm. Especially like in a state like New Mexico, our jobs are very scarce. We're all fighting for the same ones. And whenever you know that when the illegals are there, well, they make less. So they're going to get the jobs before us. We know, we have family members. We know that cartels are in and out of our state. That more than anything was scary. Knowing about the cartels that were in our backyard. Mm-hmm. And so, we wanted protection. And if you go back and listen, every president before Trump, I'm talking Clinton, the Bush family, Obama, they all spoke about border and immigration, being an issue. And that's what they do. They all these talking points that they know that Americans are concerned about, that they promise. I remember growing up, but they never did anything to fix it. And Trump is the first one, who walked the walk and talked the talk.
So, of course, since Biden has gotten into office, the first thing that I remember him saying is telling everybody that to come into the country. Mm-hmm. Anyway, I mean, and what's happened? Oh, the floodgates have opened up. Right. First of all, my grandparents both were Latino and Latina. My grandmother, the family was, they came across here legally. Yes. And of course, it's a different time, and maybe it was easier back then to get your citizenship.
Right.
But they both worked in the country. My grandmother was one of the original Rosie the Riveters during the war. Mm-hmm. They both legally got their immigration situated. So my question to you is, why aren't we doing that more now than ever? Because it is a great country.
Yes.
We are known of a melting pot of individuals from all over the world. I know terrorism is a different situation too.
Yes.
But you know what the sad thing is that terrorism also seems to be more involved with our universities and our colleges, mm-hmm. the way they attack the United States.
Right.
And they wouldn't have those rights in any other country.
Right. No, absolutely. You're right. For me, I believe what is happening is there's a multitude of things happening. So the wide open border, obviously, they're lying blatantly in our face. We could see Mayorkas. We watch the administration when they're consistently questioned about the border being closed. Well, those of us that live in El Paso, live right there by the border, we know that's a lie, especially here in Texas as well. And, I take it back to the 2020 elections. Biden did not win by 81 million votes. That was a lie. And I have seen voter fraud. We've watched it happen, especially in the state of New Mexico. And because my sis ran for Secretary of State. And so, being that involved, but there's voter fraud. So I feel, I know they lost the majority of this country. They had to have us divided in this country, divide and conquer. And they needed us to be a divided country. And they knew that the only way to gain power back from Trump, they were not expecting that man to win. No. I think they laughed it off. They literally were not expecting him to win. But the Americans spoke. The reality of what I just said, that we're tired of career politicians. We are tired of watching them grow just so rich. And let me tell you, it is on both sides. We know it's on both sides, but it's predominantly in the Democrat Party. And so they lost the American people. And for especially in the Hispanic and the Latino communities, they lost us. Okay.
So here's an example of what you're talking about. And then first of all, anybody that's watching this phenomenal interview right now with Melinda Ann, if you have any questions that you'd like to ask, no matter what side you're from, please feel free. I think they call that, if you're believe in different things, going into the lion's den.
Yes.
That's okay. We're friendly lions.
Yes.
It's okay. But I mean, it's all based on a fact, and we have our right to our opinion. That's what's great about this country.
Yeah.
just learn to respect each other's beliefs.
Absolutely.
So here's an example. I was at a Walmart store maybe a month ago,
Mhm.
and I was buying some things, and I can't remember how the discussion came up. The lady that was working behind the register was Latina,
Mhm.
who lived in Tijuana, because she told me. I don't know how. Again, we were just having small talk, and then she somehow brought up Trump's name.
Mm.
Why? I don't know. I wasn't wearing a Trump hat or a Trump shirt. I don't think I was looking orange that day. But she looked at me and she said, Trump won the election. I said, what do you mean? She says, everybody in Mexico knows the election was fraud.
See? Yeah.
But again, that's
True.
one person's opinion. But I thought that was a very interesting analogy from
Right.
from somebody I didn't know, and she didn't know me, and I wasn't wearing anything political. That was just a small talk
It was
at the
just small
register.
talk. But we have to look at what happened across our country, especially in the swing states. You cannot tell me that Pennsylvania was red and they overwhelmingly voted for Trump. In the very next election cycle, after we know he did a great job in our country, it turned blue. And they changed the election laws in these states. It was blatant in our face what they were doing. In New Mexico, it's the mail-in ballots. I had a cousin who had 3 young kids. She goes, Melinda, something's wrong when my children got a mail-in ballot. Okay. So why change? No matter what is happening in our country, we should never have to change the way we process our elections. Our elections are the most important, fundamental, thing that we're going to do in this country. It's what keeps us free. It's what, getting the right people in there. We should never have any type of election amendments, changes, laws changed, anything in this country. There was an agenda for that to happen, and they needed COVID. And here's the thing: we can all look back now, and everything that we said about COVID was true. So now let's take a look at what they did with the election laws and say, was that really necessary? They knew what they were doing. Okay, in New Mexico,
There's talk that we could all what's going to be next this election.
right?
Now the thing is that we heard that it's all about the science. Yeah, but who are the science minds aligned with?
Right. Well, and in New
Right?
Mexico, here's the thing: she just amended the mail-in ballot process for elections. Why? Why did she do that? The
Because it
Secretary of
worked.
State.
Because it worked. It's worked, and it's been successful.
Right. So the truth and the facts are right in front of our faces. And so, we have to look at what happened inside of those on election days when you had poll watchers and you had people. And if you were a Republican or a conservative, well, you were treated pretty badly, right? People were thrown out. Arguments happened. Here's another thing that happened in this last election process, because we have the evidence. Secretary of State sent out an email to the war room. It was a planned outage. And so there were polling places that people couldn't vote. There's so much. She moved to the building on election night without telling the people. Why would she do that? Saying that there was a paper. There's news. It's factual. And they asked her, well, why would you do that? Why would you move the very building where our ballots are counted and whatnot? She's like, well, we were afraid, and it was for security measures. Well, were you threatened? Well, no. Well, then why would you do that? Well, because of what happened in 20. You see what I'm saying? Like, there is too much information. There's too many facts to show that there is cheating going on.
Well, here's another example during the last election. The neighborhood that I grew up in,
Yeah.
I've lived there for, God, I hate to say it, almost 60 years. And the voting is done right across the street from my house at a school.
Yeah.
Okay. So my wife and I, the boss, go in to vote, and we both look at, to sign the paperwork because we're registered to vote there.
Mm-hmm.
And they're like, oh yeah, come in. No problem. They didn't know who I was, by the way. I don't think they did, at least. And I don't think they knew who she was, but here's what happened. I said, well, here, let me get our form of ID to show who we are. Oh, it's okay. We don't need to see any ID. I said, well, how do you know I am who I am?
Exactly.
And then they had this look like the deer in the headlights look.
Yeah.
And I said, so let me ask you this. Everybody that's voted today, you haven't checked their ID to see who they are, their driver's license to see who they are? No. And I says, well, how do you know the same person hasn't come in more than one time and voted?
Yeah.
So how that's one of those things that I think there needs to be a law in place where everybody, not an ID, and there's a lot of fake driver's license out there and fake IDs. I think there needs to be a law in place that somehow is able to show that whoever is voting really is legitimately who they are.
Absolutely. And that's the same thing in New Mexico. They don't ask for ID. Yeah.
So
they don't ask for ID.
I think across the country, to be a U.S. citizen to vote, you have to be a U.S. citizen. You can't be on the waiting list to be a U.S. citizen. Right. You have to be a U.S. citizen.
Right.
And there's laws in place right now to let people that are illegal vote.
Exactly.
I don't know if you've heard about this.
Well, I have. And that's the thing. There's so many things that are happening behind the scenes that they try to keep away from us. And the more that they're exposed, the more they just pretend like it's just not happening. And it is so frustrating. And that's the same in New Mexico. I mean, I have three daughters and they're all conservative. And whenever they go vote, they're like, do you want to see my ID? My daughter's like, please check my ID. And they're like, no, we don't need to. Well, then who do you know? How do you know who's voting in our election? Right. So when we go back to the open border, that is one of the biggest things that I know. They lost us. And so they are promising these people to come to the country, right? To come here. Hey, but you have to vote for us.
Okay. So we have some questions that are coming in. You're a firecracker apparently, because we don't get a lot of people responding right away, which is good because we need a lot of firecrackers right now across the board. So here's the thing. Is it Atilia? Did I say it right?
Italia.
Italia says, hey there.
Yeah.
Of course, Antonio Renteria says, go Melinda.
That's our CEO, Luca.
Okay. And then also
Italia is our director in Texas.
Good job, everybody. Great job. We need to get organized, and we need to be more organized than we've ever been, and even more than the Democrats have been.
Yeah.
That's just a fact.
Yeah.
And then also, Antonio says the Democrats are weaponizing the FBI against any of us who dispute the lunacy they are spewing as truth. What is your take on that?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, we watch it happen. Just look at what's happening with the FBI with the J6ers. Now, today, they're going after people that were just maybe in a 30-mile radius of the Capitol, who just talked about being there. They're going after parents who show up to a school board meeting to go and protest that their elementary children are reading highly sexually explicit books. I mean, I think that right there in itself is enough to know that the FBI has been weaponized. And it is just
hold that thought about what our kids are being taught in schools, because that's another topic we were going to talk about.
Absolutely.
Because we're both very passionate. We both have families. We have kids. Yes. We both are Latino.
Yes.
But here's the thing also. Marina Teal says, was it yes?
Yes.
Agrees with you. She says, go Cowboys. We're not going to get rid of her on our site for being a Cowboys fan, because we do support you and the Cowboys, of course. You're going to be mad to know that I'm a Raiders fan.
Oh.
But we won't get into that, and I don't want you to dislike me. So we won't.
Everybody who knows me knows I'm a diehard Dallas fan. So
well, there's no question. Apparently, my daughter is, now that I found out before we were talking before the interview. That's another story. Marina Till's yes, sir, and well, I would say yes, ma'am, as well. And then Antonio goes on to say, so how do you address the people who have given up because they've lost faith in the voting system, because the system seems corrupt?
Absolutely. And so what I say to that, and he knows how I may respond, but that is the hope. That's one of the biggest things that Luca, what we stand for. And the people have to get up and we have to address it. So our organization, we are Latinos United for Conservative Action. So the most important parts to take from that is the conservatism and the action. Because if we look at our country, and the way I tell people, our founding document says we the people. It does not say we the government. It says we the people, because the people are the ones that are supposed to be in control.
I think the forefathers had a time capsule.
Yeah.
And they put all those things in place because they knew, coming from Europe and everybody trying to find their freedom,
Yeah.
that these things had to be in place or there was going to be a repeat.
Absolutely. And what we're watching, they're steering the country to that direction now. And so the fact that it says we the people, we have lost our way of making sure that we are in control. And so it doesn't say, we the Republicans or we the Democrats, it's we the people. And we need to get back to that.
Sure
And
do.
we need to understand, what does that mean? What does it look like? Well, that's what Luke is doing. We are taking it on a very local level, grassroots level, and we're taking our power back. We're the fourth branch of government that has been ignored for a very long time. And, I can't blame my mother, but if we think back, I know I can grow up and I don't remember my mother showing up to a school board meeting or showing up to a commissioner's meeting or to a town hall or anything like that, or just showing up to question the candidates that are running for office in our local cities, because that's where it happens, right? So, from our local to our state, obviously, it has more sovereignty power than the federal government. So this is where we need to be. We need to be at a local level. We need to be making sure that in every office, I'm talking about county commissioner, I'm talking about the county clerks, the sheriffs, the school board, the superintendents. The judges, the sheriff. Everybody, governor.
What are you saying about all these names you just said? What are you trying to say about all these groups, all these people?
Well, who are we putting in office, and are they really working for the people? So we know that grassroots candidates. So Luca, we endorse the grassroots candidates. We have a questionnaire they fill out. We want to make sure that they are America first, grassroots people like us. It's time that we, the people, right? We need to get back into these positions. Do we need to educate on there? I know there's a lot of Americans like us that are just sick and tired of this government having the power and the control. Well,
you just said something, and I don't want to I don't mean to cut you off, because I respect everything you're saying. But if I don't ask you the question as you're saying, because you come up with some really good ideas,
sure,
I'll forget to ask. So I'm going to ask you. You said we Americans.
Yes.
Now, some people look at that as when you say that only is geared towards people that are white. Would you agree with me on that?
Absolutely not.
Absolutely. But are there a group of people in the Democratic Party, when you say American, they think of it as a white privilege issue?
I believe that they want that's the ideology that they're pushing onto.
Do you agree with that though?
I do not agree with that. They're white.
Because I've talked. No. I'm saying they when we say America, because I know what America is, and you know what America is. But if there's people that are foreigners or from other countries, or people in a party that are being brainwashed to think, well, America is just a white privilege thing. No,
it is not a white privilege thing. It's never been a white privilege thing.
Can you see where they would think that way though?
Well, I guess it's my generation that doesn't understand, and I don't think that way. I think that I
don't think that way either. But I'm talking about the newer group of people.
I was going to say that they've been indoctrinated.
That's my point. This is what I'm talking about.
So we can look at this generation, and we can clearly see the indoctrination that is happening in our schools. And again, why we have to be at the school board meetings, why, with our organization, we rally the parents. As a matter of fact, our state executive director in California, I'm sure you've heard of the story of Chino Valley. They flipped a whole school board red because they're taking the rights away from the parents. She said, Melinda, it took us a while. They were standing outside of grocery stores, walking into parks, Brett, to talk to people, to say, hey, did you know that this is happening in in our children's school? Did you know because of this bill or that bill or because of this policy, you as a parent will no longer have rights? If your child, if they're feeling that they can't talk about wanting to be a boy, if they're a girl or a boy, you will have no rights. And how many of them said no? They had no idea that was happening in their schools. So it is up to us. We have to be. So they were telling everybody, we need you to come stand with us. We need you to vote come vote for the right people, because these are the candidates that are going to make sure that parents have and hold to the rights of what happens in their children's life. Well, they flipped it red, and now they're being sued by the attorney general.
Let's hold the thought, because I don't disagree with what you're saying. We have some more questions. Let's go to, okay.
Yeah.
Is it Italia? Did I say it right?
Italia.
Well, I'm not wearing my glasses, so my eyes are really bad. What do you think of the effective way to go about election integrity?
Well, that's what we were speaking about. I think election integrity it needs to happen, and depending on your state, like in New Mexico, county clerks hold a lot of power when it comes to that. The people, when they say that if the people demand that the county clerks do a hand ballot, they have to do it. So where are we now? Do we need to be at a point where we have an email campaign? Are we signing petitions where we have 2, 3, 4, 500, 1,000, petitions signed, and we go into our commissioners, we go to our county clerks and say, hey, we've spoken, and we demand that you do a hand ballot because we don't trust what's been happening with the machines. We don't trust the mail-in ballots. We don't trust the process. So as the people, we're here. And we're demanding, if you could see, we have thousands of petitions signed in your county, in your district. And so you have to do what the people say. So, I mean, literally, do we need to take it back to that? Do we need to walk it back? Probably. And so these are some of the ideas that I've, brought up as well, because the power is in the people's voices. And we need to take it to the clerks, to the commissioners.
People have forgotten that. So we are the power to the people, and the politicians work for us, not the other way around. And here's another question from Marina Teal. She said, hi, homeschool for the win. Homeschooling. I mean,
you know what? And are we there? We might have to be there. That's a great point. And I know a lot of parents are homeschooling. Until when we have to phase this out, there's so much work that needs to be done. And so this is what the whole platform of Luca is, that we form teams, we form the people. We all have something that we're great at doing. We all are wonderful at providing a service or doing something that is going to bring the power back to the people. And so, and that's where we have to get creative. We have to get strategic, but the people have to show up. The people, we have to come out of our homes and we have to show up. And that is exactly what we do. We motivate people, we rally them, we get them excited. We had somebody who was she was a very introvert, but she was angry about what was happening in the schools. And I know we're going to talk about that, but her little voice, her little shyness, she showed up. She showed up to a school board meeting to commission, and she got angry, and she read the book, and she demanded that they be removed. So that's what we do. We inspire you. We have to come out. We, the people, if it's going to, and how long will it take to show the people that we're in power? I think many of Americans are sick and tired already that we're doing it. It is the ones that are here illegally, the ones that have come through the border, that we're going to have to deal with. What does that look like? Well,
it's a sad case. There's a lot. I have a feeling we're going to end up having to do another interview because, number one, you're very informed. I think they're very real topics.
Yes.
One thing about what we try to do with what we do here on the show is we make it real. We put it out there. And I don't care if you disagree or disagree. I don't care about any of that, because the only way you're going to learn is to disagree sometimes. You have to disagree.
Oh,
and there's nothing wrong. And it doesn't mean we can't be friends because we disagree. Right.
Right.
So there's a lot of good questions. I can't believe, we got a lot of response on a lot of this. So here's another question. Antonio, Democrats want to convince people that it's what we believe, even though they know better, because they need to promote a lie because their platform is terrible.
Absolutely. They've been called out. He's right. They have been called out. So when Trump came in, I think one of the biggest accomplishments that he did, we all knew we couldn't trust career politicians. We all knew, we could think back for decades that we were being lied to. So what did Trump do? He gave them a platform. He pulled up the curtain and he put the spotlight on every single corrupt thing, corrupt on both sides of the aisle, of those that are in office for not, that didn't have the people's best interest in mind. And so they've been called out, and they know that the majority of us have walked away from them, right?
Right.
It's the Latino and Hispanics. We were all raised, the Democrats are for the poor. And for me, I can grow up and remember understanding that we just vote Democrat. I always tease people and say, when I was born, it was just stamped on my birth certificate because I'm
Sure.
Hispanic,
Right.
I'm a Democrat. But now we look back and we can understand that was a big lie. They're not for the poor. And
But what's interesting in what you're saying. I don't mean to cut you off, but again, everything you're saying are things I was gonna talk to you about, and it's like we didn't have any playbook on this, but these are things I was going to talk about. The Democratic Party of John F. Kennedy is not the same party, and if John F. Kennedy was around today, he probably would be a Republican.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
Strong military, strong law enforcement, family beliefs, Catholic, all those things now that seem to be like blasé from the past. Mm-hmm. And it's just fascinating. Even Reagan would be probably considered in some ways very light of what he did, which he was probably one of the greatest presidents, other than maybe Trump, of course, but that's another story. But here's another question. Everybody's just, we're getting a lot of response. JFK would probably be a Republican today. Somebody disagreed with me. That's Antonio. Yeah. He also said, Melinda is amazing. You can see why she is the president of Luca. Her passion for our country is infectious. Oh. And this is our future. And I agree with him. I agree 100% with him. And I was at an event last night, and I mentioned what your organization's doing. I talked about what you're doing, Melinda, because that is where there is a very weak link for the Conservative Party or the Republican Party in order to take back the country. Yes. Because Latinos are all about family, hard work. Yes. And we earn
freedom.
We have earned everything pretty much. I don't know where I'm hearing all this. Is that you or me?
So I don't know what that was.
I think President Biden wants to ask a question. He's calling in. Except
are we going to take his call?
I think he's got the wrong number. Anyway, I would take his call. Yeah. Absolutely. I think we could have a civil conversation with President Biden.
Would he know what the conversation is about? I mean,
I think anything
is.
Hey, look, I think everybody's entitled to go into the lion's den.
Yeah.
I think all of us should be able. I think it makes us muy fuerte.
Oh, you know what? I'm dying to go on CNN. I would absolutely love to go on CNN. To me, that's a lion's den that would be very happy to walk into, but I don't think they would invite me.
Maybe we have to come up with a new show called Rhett's Lion's Den. Yeah. We'll invite everybody from both sides of the party. We'll put them in a MMA ring and let them, instead of talking, just go at it.
Yeah. Hair
pulling, punching.
When I started my first podcast show, that's what it was about. It was called Debate Date with Melly. And I literally was trying to be the bridge because we were so divided, right? So I was trying to be the bridge and the voice of reason. Like if, there were so many family members that weren't talking to each other, friends that stopped talking to each other. Well, let's get back on, why we love each other.
Right. And let's find a way to get back to normalcy. And, but there's people that are being paid to cause conflict.
I know.
By big time organizers that want to cause this conflict and look at these other things that we don't agree with, because it makes us take our eye off how really messed up things are.
Right. Yeah, it's true. They need to keep us distracted because we've seen too much already. See, President Trump has shown us enough. There's no turning back. As we have seen more than enough of the corruption, of the issues, and the fact that we are going to be that we have been standing up. And what I'm so proud of is that Luca has, our people are very bold. They are loud. They are determined. They are passionate. They get out there and they have no fear of standing up and being a voice against this government, right? Because many in this government, they have put themselves on a pedestal that we didn't put them on. They become celebrities and they continue to forget. So what I remind everybody, so for all your listeners, let's start calling them what they are. And they are civil servants. They are not celebrities. They need to understand, their role in all of this. And they are mere civil servants. They've been put there by the people, but for far too long, they put themselves there and they put themselves on a pedestal that they need to be knocked off of.
Let me check the time here. How long have we been on?
This 35 minutes.
Do you mind talking a little bit longer? I mean, it seems to be it seems like it's got legs still, and we're still very passionate. So let me ask you, what is your thought on who would be a good vice president for Trump if he runs?
I think a great vice president is going to be, it needs to be a woman. It needs to be a very passionate woman, because, here's one of the things that I say right now, our women are mama bears have come out from everywhere because they're after our children and they're after our men. If we look at what just happened with these women, with the women's movement, all of this feminists that have come out, they've attacked, masculinity is a bad word, right? And it shouldn't be. So,
God, I hope not.
They call it toxic masculinity.
I don't want to lose my masculinity. I already lost my hair.
Us women do not want, women like us that do not want our men to lose their masculinity. We need the men. We need our godly men. We need our men that are strong, because our men is what holds our society together. Think about all of the family unit that they've broken apart. The man and the fathers and the men are a very important base to keeping a society together.
I would say probably a high percentage of Latinas and Latinos would probably agree. I would guess 80%.
Yeah. And so I think a woman vice president who is going to fight all of this right now to protect the children, to protect our men, to protect the masculine, side of what they're trying to take away. Look at what they're doing in our military to our men, showing all of these transgenders and drag queens in the military. They're trying to break our men down, and there's a multitude of facets that they're trying to break our men down. So I believe that a strong voiced mama bear woman needs to be vice president.
So you're thinking Nikki Haley?
Nikki Haley, I'm thinking I would love to see Carrie Lake if I had my way.
Oh, wait a minute. I'm getting a little note here.
Or Kristi Noem. Yes, I see Kristi Noem. Kristi Noem.
Okay. Any strong Latina candidates other than yourself that would make a good vice president?
There aren't any out there. Maybe I should consider it.
Throw your hat in the ring.
Maybe.
You got my vote. I support that ticket.
Yes, I think
I could be your communications secretary.
Thank you.
As long as the adjective is Mr. Brett.
Mr. Brett. I have had people ask me if I'm going to run, but I joke around and I tell people, I love working in the community. I love working with the people. I love what I do. I think at this point, my Latina blood, and I just joke around, but I don't think I could be in the same halls of Congress with the likes of AOC or Rashida Tlaib right now. I don't know, my Latino blood would allow that to happen.
Do you think their days are numbered?
I believe so. I believe all of these politicians on both sides of the aisle that know that the people are onto them, their days are numbered. We're taking names. We've got notes of everybody that is absolutely voting against what we know is for the people, by the Constitution. And we're not going to forget, and we're going to do everything we have to do, especially in our organization, to primary them out.
So what's I love history. And I love politics. My grandmother and I would debate all the time.
I love it now.
Yeah, when she was alive, we would debate about everything. She was, I was a Reagan Republican. She was a FDR Democrat. Mm-hmm. But I supported Robert Kennedy when he ran for office because I was stamped Latino on my forehead.
Yeah.
And I thought he would have probably ended up being president that year had he not been assassinated.
I know.
Because the writing was on the wall.
Absolutely.
So here's the thing I'm taking from this whole thing. The Latinos are a very powerful organization, group, and culture in the United States.
Mm-hmm.
Very much about family, very much about faith and hard work. Did I leave anything out?
No, family, faith, and freedom.
Okay. And freedom. So if we're going to win and make an impact in the election, I think there needs to be, and your group is doing this, by the way, we need to be double organized than the Democratic Party.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And people get angry when I say that. I said that last night at an event, and there was some of the old school, and I'm old school, but there was older school people there that looked at me, and I said, if we plan on making an impact, I'll tell you right off the bat, we are not organized.
Yeah.
Some of them run businesses, and some of them kind of wrinkled their noses at me. And I says, and I don't mean to offend you. I'm just calling it what it is. We are not organized. We need to be more organized.
Absolutely. No, you're right. And that's one of the things that the Democrats did very well. But I'll tell you what, within our organization, we're bringing in everybody. We are organized. And within our organization we're running it just the way it needs to be ran as a business. And we're not, we're not just there. Like I said, we share memes. We like to laugh and stuff, but we are literally in the trenches doing the work, and it is organized. And we have our teams. We recognize what everybody's strengths are, what they have to bring and offer in this fight, because there's a lot of things that we need to do in every aspect.
What do you tell governors of states, not just California or New Mexico or Texas? And I don't know what those governors of those states or any of the other states are saying. Well, what would you tell a governor that says illegal immigration is just coming here for jobs?
That what? Say that again.
That people that are coming over to the United States illegally are coming here just for jobs. What would you tell those governors?
Well, they're first and foremost, they're breaking the law, and these governors are not upholding their oath by upholding the law. So the fact that they're allowing them to break our laws already doesn't suffice that they're the right candidate. These governors need to. We have laws in place for a reason, and they need to be enforced. And so whether they're here for jobs or not, you can't tell me that 6-7 million, and not just that, they come from 170 different countries around the world.
Is that documented?
Yes. And this is, yes. And that even came from
Border Patrol.
Yeah. And Border Patrol and FBI, I believe at a point when they were, but here's the thing, that's an invasion. Okay, you can clearly see what legal immigration looks like, and you see everybody with their hand up. They're taking the oath. They've got the American flag there. When you do the correct way, I tell people the immigrants that did it the correct way, they know the Constitution better than we do.
Yeah,
they know our amendments better than we do.
That is so true.
They know it better than we. So so if a governor is going to do this for jobs, it's a lie. It is a lie. We know it is, because you just don't have, again, these governors are already breaking their oath to uphold the law when they clearly are okay with people coming in by the thousands, by the millions, breaking our law. You can't get around that.
Well, I think those are potential voters.
Absolutely they are, because they lost us. Just like I said, they knew once Trump got in the office, they saw the impact. It's clear as day of seeing a Trump rally. Go look at any of his rallies. There are none for Biden that way. He's hiding. He doesn't come out. And if you look at many officials, even like in New Mexico, our governor built a wall. She put up walls. She put up fences around the governor. That's our mansion. That belongs to the people. And anybody who rules behind a gate or a fence and security, those are not by the people. They are not there for the people, and the people do not respect them. Those are dictators.
Well, I got more out of this interview than I even imagined. I knew it was going to be good, but I think I need to take a nap now. I think I'm drained.
Well, there's a lot to think about, right? There's a lot to.
Well, no. Here's the thing that I liked about the interview. I think it's real. I would even love to have somebody come on and disagree with us and have a.
I would love that.
Would love to be a moderator. So if you have anybody that's willing to come into our Lion's Den and talk a little bit about their beliefs in a way that I don't want to leave yet, by the way, because there's the questions are still coming in. This is probably one of our busiest shows in a while.
Oh,
We are being invaded, says Antonio.
yeah.
There are processes to enter our country legally. The reasons these illegals are coming from other countries in our world, hold on, I just moved, in our world except Mexico. There has been congressional hearings verifying this. Our country is being bankrupted by this.
Absolutely. I mean, if you just saw in the news earlier, they were showing that Colorado, because my adopted son lives there, he was angry. They just spent $12 million on illegal immigration. New York is in the billions that they've spent on illegal immigration.
I think
Chicago,
probably. I think San Diego, New York, Chicago. I mean, Chicago is. It's interesting. New York was the place where immigrants came to Ellis Island in mass groves, and Statue of Liberty states something like, she's opening her arms to the people.
Yes.
Well, they said they actually saw her the other day. Her arms were crossed.
Well, yeah. I mean, this isn't the 1920s anymore. This isn't the 1930s anymore. There are people that have taken advantage of what America stands for and doing things right. I mean, we couldn't walk into any other country waving our flag without being shot.
Right. Let's get into another subject here really quick. And I again, this has just been I've been really enjoyed this. Have you had a good time?
I love it. Thank you.
Where's your coffee? I don't see no coffee.
I've been waiting for this conversation for a while.
No coffee. No coffee. No coffee.
They're here.
Okay, good. Oh, that's right. There's a Cowboys thing again.
My Cowboys cup.
Okay. So,
and cheers to the Texas Rangers for winning the World Series.
I have to tell you, we used to have a house in Camp Bowie in Fort Worth, and we really almost moved to Texas at one time. I love Texas. It's a great state.
Yes, it is. And it's under attack right now, you guys. I mean, that's a whole different conversation. But, like we say, if Texas goes, there goes the nation. And so, I mean, our Texas team, they are fire, and they are clawing, and they are so strong spirited in fighting for this state. I'll tell you that.
Here's something else. I mean, these great questions keep coming in. And again, I love our immigrants, but we need to be orderly, and we need to get organized, because we are bankrupting cities, states, and the country.
Well, and we live in a society where terrorism is real, and there are other countries that chant death to America all the time. So we need to be very careful.
Mm-hmm. So Italia, did I say it right?
Italia. Mm-hmm.
Italia. Immigrants get benefits I can't even afford.
Mm-hmm.
They get Medicare. They get cell phones. Is it brand name?
Oh, I think she meant
brand names, clothing, etc.
Yeah.
And they don't even pay taxes in this country.
No. So again, it's blatant in our face what the agenda is, right? It's very blatant what they're doing, and they are literally bankrupting the American people. And we always have to ask the question, why? Why is the government that's supposed to be protecting the people for the people? Why? That's one of the biggest things that I think every American, I mean, you've got to ask why. What happened to the American dream?
Well, let me ask you this: the people that are working here and paying their taxes should have a say so where their money's going.
Absolutely.
Since
they get to break laws. They're breaking our laws, invading our country. If I go over the speed limit and I don't show up for court, what's going to happen? If I mean, we have to abide by our laws. We have to do the right thing. We have to pay a ticket. We have to make sure our credit is well, so we can buy the nice cars and have the nice things, but they get everything for free. Why? Again, we have to ask why. What is the agenda? What is
I'm going to make a prediction, okay? And usually my predictions come true.
Okay.
Not always on a timely basis. I'm always a little behind or a little late, as you know, like we were today. But eventually things happen the way they're supposed to. I predict there's going to, and I had this talk with another friend of mine. I won't mention his name.
Okay.
We believe that there will be a third party, possibly because people are tired of all this.
Yeah.
But also maybe the old beliefs and what we're talking about, which is the Republican Party, will come back because people want this, and there's going to be a great reset.
Yeah.
And now I understand that they're saying by fall of next year, there's a very high probability that we're going to go paperless and it's going to be all digital. What's your take on that?
Well, Few things. I think right now a third party is going to work against the people. We are mostly a two-party state. A third party is always there to disrupt things, and the Democrats stay in power every single.
But you and I were both Perot supporters before, right?
Yes, and it is going to. I mean, just like it goes right to the Democrats. We have to be very careful with that talk. We have to. The Republican Party has, our conservative values are in that party. Now, do we have issues? But again, this is what Luca does. We have to take it back. The people at a grassroots level, we have to make sure that we are getting the right candidates, people like us, people, the grassroots Americans that know that we have to take our government back. And also that means to the Republican Party from a local level all the way up to the national level. And make sure that the conservative values within that party, because it is the only, I'll make it very clear, the only party that is going to stop the Democrat demise of this country. And it reflects on the world, as we can see.
So the show is not based on propaganda. The show is based on thoughts, ideas, and what the reality is, and to get into the brain and thought of what people are talking about and thinking about. Mm-hmm. So, Antonio, I have a lot of respect for everything you say, but I disagree with the fact that a third party is a bad idea to be looked at, because I think it does need to be looked at. I'm not saying I agree with it, because I do believe it'll cause a demise of anything really getting done, and I don't think the power is there for it. No. It's going to kind of like throw the party back to the Republicans. So it is being talked about by a lot of people, though.
No, it is, and we do hear about it. But I will say it again. It's been tried many times, and it fails, and it goes right back to the Democrats.
Well, I don't disagree with you. Do we want to
continue, or do we want to make sure that we stay behind a stable and a strong enough position until we can get in those and clean the house? We have a lot of house cleaning to do.
Well, I think the Great Reset, it's going to be called the Great Reset. It is going to happen, and I think people are tired of the crap. These individuals that are politically involved work for the people, and I get dirty looks when I tell them that. Some of them, there's a few that I know that are good people, like we are, that really do care about what's going on with the country. Mm-hmm. How can a party, here's a question, how can a party that wants, we're talking about FDR and the Democratic people that, came from that time where Social Security was developed.
Right.
That is not the same party.
No.
And I'll tell you why, because people that are hurting, you don't make it harder for them to survive by raising gas prices, water prices, making it so difficult that they can't even hardly breathe. Right. It's like they're putting their boot on everyone's neck, mm-hmm. and not allowing them to breathe. I mean, and of course they want everybody to be on food stamps, right. And they want them to be on social programs. But let me ask you, if those things worked, why are there so many people from so many of those countries that do that wanting to come to the United States?
Well, I mean, again, America is known. Let's think about what's really happening across the world. We're watching death and destruction and chaos. Okay, back in the day, I mean, even before all this, this was the American dream, and that was alive. And the people that did come into our country were able to accomplish the American dream. But we're looking at today's society. They get to come in for free to try to achieve that. But again, we have to talk about the agenda. There is an agenda when we have to ask why such a wide open border. Why are you allowing 7 million people to walk right in when we have no clue who they are, where mm-hmm. they came from, what their intentions are? And until we fix that problem, we're going to crash. We're sending billions out to Ukraine. We're now going to send. I mean, we're in wars that we have no business being in.
Well, that we weren't even involved with before. We were strong. Well, here's a question. I don't disagree. Here's two thoughts. By having a third party, it will split the vote for the Republicans, and the Democrats will win. So there's no question. We know that, but it is being talked about. The second thing is, what's happening now is that we are close to World War III.
Yeah, we are. We absolutely are. And again, that is because we've allowed it. We have a very weak administration right now. Let's just take it back to just 3-4 years ago, 5 years ago. We were finally on a world stage, okay, the strongest country in this world, because he made it very clear, America is back. And I am going to be the president. I am the president of the people. It's the people. And even, in his inauguration, he said, this isn't just a transfer of power from Democrat to Republican. This is a transfer of power from the government back to the people. And that's why they hate him, because he was doing his policies on a federal level, was doing just that. And how do you do that? Well, you just do your job as the CEO. You just make sure that the states that have more sovereignty power have exactly what they need to be successful on a federal level.
But I have to tell you, and I always talk about the reality of this. The policies were, I think, really good policies.
Yeah.
As a CEO running the United States.
But it's up to the states.
Well, he's not a people person, and he's a New Yorker. He's a New Yorker that people get butthurt because of what he says and how he says it. Oh my God, to hear the way he's talking to the reporters. Oh my God, nobody's ever disrespected the reporters that way. But if you notice, he was fine until they attacked him or came out with lies. Exactly. And then he called them out, and then they were disrespectful and they wouldn't be quiet. And so then he got disruptive, and he doesn't know how to be diplomatic. He's not a diplomatic type.
No, he's a boss man. He's a New Yorker. As a matter of fact, my CEO and I were just talking about this yesterday. Coming from a small town in New Mexico, when I moved to the Northeast and I went to New York many times, people that talk and walk and speak just like Trump come a dime a dozen. That's their personality. Now you throw in a boss man, because I've run my own business. I know a lot of people who run their own businesses. And if you if you're light on the feet and if you aren't strong in everything that you do, you have people that walk all over you. And we needed that mentality to turn things around. It takes time to turn around a whole country, especially one that's been deteriorated as long as it's been deteriorated. And if you don't hold that strength, and again, let's just think about why we call DC the swamp. Imagine what he was up against, and he was angry.
What he's still against, he's dealing with all these trials and all these other things, and that's it. Go ahead.
Yeah, but the media, they're supposed to be for the people. Their responsibility is to make sure that the people get the right, and they are horrible. So I don't blame him for going after the media. I don't blame him for going. It's like us dealing with a liberal or somebody on a personal basis that's in our faces, that's trying to harm our families, that's trying to allow people that we don't even know come into our homes for free. I don't think we're going to be very nice about that, are we?
Well, some people would be.
Not really.
Not you and I. I mean, we would do something.
But that's what I mean. Like
There's so many people that are so weak and so gullible now that here's another question. Trump is actually a great man.
Yes.
He's very easy to talk to until you attack him. And then he's more than ready for a fight. You better be equipped. Psychologically to deal with an enemy, which makes him appear to be a bully. But in reality, he's just better at returning fire than the person who fired the first shots.
Yeah.
I heard he's a very loyal person. One thing we don't hear about in the media, because they really, let's face it, media in the United States is run by the left. Well, by the left, it just is. It's just a fact. Yeah. But here's the thing too. We have a situation now that I'm wondering if the media is going to really care about this country enough to say, we really backed the wrong guy, and we are way off where we were when he was in office, and we didn't like him. How many people have you ever worked for or worked with that you didn't like or you didn't hang out with, but they were really good at their job?
Yes.
And you stayed out of their way and you let them do their job, and maybe you didn't agree with certain things about them, but you learned to work with them because that's just the way it was. And then the other thing was, maybe you didn't like your boss, but maybe there was a respect that was once there that has been lost. And I have this discussion a lot with a lot of my colleagues around me.
Yes. Well,
the boss doesn't get the respect that he once did.
Well, and it's like being a parent. If you don't show that that you demand respect, and that you you've earned the respect. I mean, your children are going to walk all over you. You can't be their best friend. You can't, if you have teenagers, allow them to do whatever they want, break the laws, sneak out of the house, do whatever, and be nice about it and think that it's going to change. You have to be a boss, and you have to show that authority. And so, I mean, just imagine what was on Trump's plate, what he had to deal with, not only on a local, in a local level in our country, but around the world. Imagine what he had to deal with to turn things around.
I'll tell you, I think he actually had more respect from everybody around the world than he did people in the United States.
Yeah, there are still some that didn't like him because he was a boss man. And so, when he went and put that bomb, let that one bomb go from the very beginning, that was a huge statement. America's back, and we're, strength through power, and it, demands respect. And we were on a world stage again, being respected. Do you think we're respected now?
I think we're being laughed at.
We're being laughed at right now. And
we're being laughed at not by only other countries. We're being laughed at by people, our own citizens.
Absolutely. We're a joke.
And if you can't see how much turmoil there is. Now, one last question, and then then we'll take off, because I didn't expect this thing to go. I've never seen so much fire on my site. I mean, we ignited, it's like Dante's Inferno. So Dante was Italian, wasn't he?
I think so.
These damn Italians are always causing problems, aren't they? I'm going to get in trouble for saying, I love Italian people, by the way.
Yes.
I love all people. What is your thoughts? I had people say we wouldn't have these problems if we just took away borders.
Well, what good is a sovereignty of a nation of being invaded, taking it back to the 16, 17, 1800s if you don't have a border? I mean, what I guess I don't see the sense in that.
This was a college professor that told me this, by the way.
Seriously. I mean, what?
We looked at each other. I thought he was joking at first. He said, we would end all the problems in the world if we just opened the borders and everybody learned to kumbaya and get along.
No, but that's never going to happen, because there are people in other countries and around the world that don't, have the same beliefs that we do, that are still live in those, times where murdering people is no big deal. And
do you think we're being laughed at more, or we're hated more?
I think it's both, honestly, especially.
I think you're right, but I think we're hated more than we're being laughed at.
Well, I think we've been hated on for a long time, for a very long time. And that hasn't ended at all. And here we are sticking our noses in wars that we didn't start. We have nothing to do with.
Sure.
And we stick our noses in many ways. Look at what happened to Haiti. Look at what happened to the Haitians. Look at what happened to some of the people in Africa when we allowed people like Bill Gates, right, and others. I mean, I know, and I've spoken to many people around the world, they hate us because our government goes in and starts wars and people die. And they say we're very shady. And Americans under Trump have seen, we know we have crooked politicians, but for Trump to really pull up the curtain and to really show us just how disgustingly corrupt they are. I tell a lot of people from around the world that I talk to that message me. I said, that's what I do. That's what our organization does. That's what patriots like myself are doing. We recognize, we know that our government is corrupt, and that's what we're fighting against right now. And that's why we are working and doing what we have to do to take the power back, give it back to the people. So, until then, and that's why Trump being a president, when he says we're giving, we're restoring the power back to the people, there were 0 wars under that man. The world was a better place. You saw people in Taiwan and Japan marching down the streets with Trump signs, begging for him to be their leader, because when America's in peace, the world is at peace. You no longer.
North Korea was, I think it was the first time in history that they had a U.S. president on their soil.
Yeah. And he just walked right in like and invited, I don't know if he texted or called or anything. He's like, I'm here. I'm here. And so there was, finally, we could feel, right, the remnant of world peace. But what did the Democrats do? Oh, he's going to start wars. There were never wars. Now that's all we've seen is war and death and destruction since Biden's taken over. I hope people really can open their eyes and see that.
Well, they elected the guy that was like their grandfather, but gave away the farm and the farm for generations.
Mm-hmm.
I appreciate you being on the show. Would you come back on? Are you available on a Monday, on Monday at all?
Yeah,
I think we should talk. A topic I'd like to talk to you about is a situation that's happening in Tijuana, which is it's a terrible segue into promoting our film, but it's about the movie The Big Dump, about how Tijuana, where's it at? There it is. See it right there? That's our film, and how Tijuana and the sewage problem has been going on since 1935 and is the biggest, probably one of the biggest crisis in the United States that nobody's hearing about.
Yeah. And didn't Trump put something, wasn't he?
He was the very first, and we haven't talked about this. He was the first president to actually allocate the $300 million. And then when he lost the election, it got kind of rambled up and what happened to it. But I'd love, as a Latina and somebody as Mexicana, I would love to get your thoughts on how that pollution is affecting the citizens of Tijuana and the citizens of the United States. Maybe we could talk about that in our next discussion.
Absolutely. I would love to come back, and I'm so thankful. Thank you again for having me. I loved this conversation.
Yeah, I feel like we were kind of like brawling a little bit, but we were agreeing. We were kind of like two grizzly bears kind of going at it. But I like the real talk. Yeah. And you know what I would like to do in the future, if you're interested in being on a couple more times. I didn't expect this to happen the way that it did today. It was just very organic. Yeah. But what I would like to do is get somebody maybe on that disagrees with us.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I love those conversations
where it could be civil with each other.
I've had that. The guy in Chicago, he called me on Instagram and we talked for 3 hours. I love it.
See if you can find, and I'll do the same thing, some individuals, but I want to focus on this sewage thing because I feel bad for the people of Tijuana, and the people in San Diego now are also being affected with the air quality.
Right. Well, I'm glad you've got a movie coming out about it, but absolutely. You let me know and I will come back. I would be happy to.
Okay. Great guest. Great topic. Sarah, you have a question? Yeah. Oh, November 10th is the film at 1:00.
Okay.
Pacific Standard Time, but she can't make that because she's in Texas. But for the listeners who are in town, and we'll be talking more about this, we'll share the information with you. And if you could share it with your with the Latinas and Latinos in the United States, that would be great.
You got it. I'll be happy to.
Thank you so much for your time.
Thanks. I appreciate it, Brett. Thank you.
You hit it out of the park.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
And congratulations on the Rangers winning, by the way.
Yay. Next.
Okay. Oh, I don't know about that. I don't know about the Cowboys.
We'll see.
Okay. We got to take a wager on that.
Okay.
You take care.
You too.
Bye.
Bye.
What a great show. And anybody that has any ideas for future thoughts or ideas for myself or Melinda Ann, topics that nobody else wants to talk about, let's be real and get it out there. I think this is a great show, and I think it's timely for what's going on in our country.
Yes, absolutely.
Take care.
You too.